This presentation is going to start off with disabilities and illness, and then we will jump right into our information on fantasy. When one has a disability or illness, you will need to find creative ways to be intimate. You'll discuss with your doctor and partner, and you'll get it figured out. An example of this would be after a woman has given birth. I think it's great for a partner to be in the delivery room with the woman giving birth so that they truly understand why they aren't going to be ready for sex again real soon. Usually it's about 6 weeks. But believe me, you will get it figured out. You will find creative ways to be intimate with one another without having sex. Also, special attention needs to be given to the mentally retarded, so you can teach them appropriate ways to use their sexuality. They have the desire to have sex, just like you and I do, but they don't have the inhibitions to do things appropriately. So they need to be taught how to respond in public. They need to be taught how to use birth control. Many of the women are put on like the pill form of birth control or the shot so that somebody can take them to get that or give that to them on a daily basis. And then the males and females need to be taught how to put on a condom properly so that they can take precautions. The question is, should they be mandatorily sterilized to be able to keep from reproducing? That should be their decision along with their parents or guardians. There's two issues that evolve around this. Can that person, if they were to have a child, could they handle being a parent? If not, who's going to raise the child? And then the other aspect to consider is what is the chance of them passing on the genetic problem that they have? Now, an exciting part of our chapter is on fantasies. A fantasy is a private mental experience that is sexually arousing. Men naturally fantasize more often. In a 1994 study, they found that 54% of men and 19% of women thought about sex at least once a day. On a Jay Leno program, I heard that sex probably think about sex about 10 times a day. In a 1992 study, they found a positive correlation between fantasizing. They found that those who fantasized had greater sex drive, they participated in more sexual activity, and had a greater attitude towards sex. The most common fantasy for women is somebody that they are or have been involved with. They're usually in a more passive, submissive role, and usually they focus more on their partner's feelings than on their own. Fantasies can be separate from behavior. It would not be uncommon for a woman to fantasize about being forced to have sex, being a victim. That does not mean that she wants that event to occur. I think probably it's more of a defense mechanism. She puts herself in that role in a fantasy situation as a self-guard against that happening. And I suppose the same would be true for a male. He may put himself in the role of forcing sex onto somebody, but that does not mean that he needs or wants to have that happen. One survey found that only 7 had never experienced a fantasy, so it's a very common thing. Kinsey found that 84% of men and 67% of women had had fantasies. And remember, this is after the Victorian era when people weren't really thinking about sex. But we know that even though they weren't, they probably were. Anytime we tell people they can't do something, then we will have excesses. They also found that sexual experience was a positive correlation to fantasy, just as the 1992 study found. Some common fantasies are fantasizing about intercourse while masturbating. That would just help that process. Sex with a former lover. In this situation, the important thing is to make sure you call your present lover the correct name. Sex with strangers, imaginary lovers, oral genital sex, being irresistible. Who doesn't want to be irresistible? And then, again, forced sex. Sexual fantasies can occur, again, during masturbation, in daydreams, or even during lovemaking. Some purposes of fantasies would be a source of pleasure, to enhance arousal or sexual relationships. It can enhance our relationships. To rehearse, to think of your first date and how you rehearse that in your head. Chances are it didn't go quite as well as you rehearsed, so that could be a possibility with a fantasy as well. to overcome anxiety, to be better than we really are. And then it really is a form of safe sex and private. You do not have to tell your partner about your fantasy. If it's one that would enhance your relationship, that would be probably a helpful thing. But if it's one that would not improve a relationship, then that's probably something you don't want to share. There can also be problems with fantasies if they become obsessive, if they are something that you are doing when you should be doing something else, such as fantasizing during class. You need to be paying attention during class. The compulsion to act out if it's not appropriate, and then if you feel any guilt or shame about anything you're fantasizing about, then that could be a problem as well. And sexual differences between males and females. Male fantasies are usually more active, often more than one opposite sex partner, and then male fantasies are often about quicker sex. Now, females are usually about relationships, preferably long-term relationships, and usually more detailed description. However, some of the most detailed descriptions that I've gotten in terms of fantasies that students have written were written by men. So as I alluded to that, be prepared, because in class you will be asked to write a fantasy, and then I will read them. We won't know whose or whose. They'll be anonymous, but I'll read them and we'll guess, was that a male that wrote that or a female? So this is a fun activity that I look forward to every semester, and I hope you will too.